so that we can let me know
Cancers. This is a
if you
St.
can
Jude
hear her.
moment.
My name is Joel, and I was diagnosed with osteoporosis.
Okay, I'm on your page now.
Cancer, and I
Okay.
came to St. Jude as a 7-year-old because doctors had discovered a tumor in
Okay,
my
Pastor
shoulder.
Tisha,
St. Jude was
can we
amazing
hear
early
you?
on.
Yes,
Even as a 7-year-old, they found a way
yes.
to explain
A,
it to
B,
me, to
C, D, E, F, G,
that by the
H,
time I
I,
walked
J,
out of
K,
there
L,
as
M,
an
N, O,
hospital
P,
I was fully
Q, R, S, T,
using
U,
my
V,
full
W, X,
but
Y.
Sounds clear.
in school
All
and
right,
have
now
A,
qualms
we
or
said
no
our
worries
thank you.
ABCs.
so I'm lucky enough to be
Yes.
Lindsay, who's also another
I
former
want
St.
you
Jude
to thank
patient who I
me.
actually met at a St. Jude
Oh,
event. She was in the
boy.
middle of her treatment. I had finished mine just a couple of years before and just told her I loved her. Luckily, she reciprocated, told me the same thing back, and we were fortunate enough to get married on the St. Jude campus.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
All right.
My dad served in Vietnam, the 82nd Airborne Division. He never talked about it, and my mom knew not to ask. So Dad buried himself in work and self-medicated, and would lose his temper sometimes. Loud noises would put him on edge.
Okay.
It got rough. So I finally said to him, Dad, you gotta get help.
As a family member or friend, you may be the first to notice when a veteran you love has been going through changes. Things like withdrawing, drinking more, or increased anger could be a sign of a larger health concern, but help is available.
Dad finally went to VA for one-on-one and group therapy and got some really great tools to help him manage things. I got my dad back.
Oh, boy.
Listen to hundreds
Okay.
of inspiring stories at maketheconnection.net and learn how you can support the veterans in your life. Treatment works.
Well, I've been
Recovery
doing this
is
new
possible.
hairdo, and child, it has
Gentle
been a
breeze
whole
blows
lot,
across your
okay?
face as you take a refreshing
1 minute.
Wearing it straight,
appreciating the
Lord
stillness of
have
another
mercy.
morning of fishing on the lake.
But you know, I
The
think,
distant
as
gurgle of
as
a
you get
stream
older,
reminds you
your
of
texture
days spent
changes
playing
too.
hoop, the cool, clear
Oh,
water.
sure.
And
Yeah.
you have to be careful because my mother
You
said, well,
love
it
the
goes back
sound
to
of
where
nature,
you
the
were.
feeling of putting everything on
And she
hold
said, that's why I
to
told you.
connect
She
with the
said,
world around
look
you.
at your daddy and your grandmama.
Now,
You gonna be
imagine
bald.
it's all gone. No fish, no lake, no water.
He's
30
not
seconds.
bald, but
One
his
of
hair
life's
is
most vital
thin
resources,
significantly,
irreplaceably
you
depleted.
know.
Gotcha.
So
Time is running out to
just
protect fresh water,
roll right through it.
and without our love,
What?
it can
Well,
and
you know,
will
I mean,
disappear.
his hair is super,
It's our
super
choice.
duper fine, and that's what
Love it
happens, you know.
or lose it.
Just, but
Help
you know, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it
fresh
happens to
water.
everybody.
10 seconds.
Wild Wildlife Fund
Yeah.
at
So here we go.
www.org/love.
All right.
Stand by.
Play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. Is it me or is time just running away? My goodness. It's a joy to be with you today. I want to talk with you about free speech. I got a call yesterday at the station, and I want to share that with you. And I hope that you all will call me today at 773-763. WCPT 773-763-9278. It was a complaint about the show. And in fact, I don't know if the gentleman actually heard the show because he, in the complaint that was shared with me by the station manager, I said, that's not what we discussed. But we're going to talk about that. And I want to talk with you about America and free speech. Do we have a free speech problem? I think that we do. We censor each other. We do it not just on the right, we do it on the left. And if we start censoring, if we start losing the right to think and speak freely, to speak not your truth, because truth is neutral. Truth doesn't belong to you, it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to God. Speak truth or give your opinion. And your opinion is shaped by your life experiences. Where are we going to be? How's it that we decide? Who decides to shut down candidates, to shut people up? Remember, vilification leads to assassination. Always remember that. Remember that. Not just the assassination of character, but the assassination of persons. So I want to talk with you about free speech today. I'm going to share with you the complaint, and I do hope that the gentleman who said that he was going to start boycotting the station, my sponsors, and me, I hope that he's listening today, and I hope that he'll call in, and I hope that you all will call in, because I love watching the engagement on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I love the engagement that I get, that I see you do on Santita Jackson and Friends. I love the fact that you listen on WCPT820.com and AM950radio.com. But that's one way. That's not a conversation. Conversation. You converse. That is, you speak with someone. We have to start doing that. So I want you to start calling in even more than you do now. Call in. Don't just type up. Call in, get involved. Let us engage with one another. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. What about this cancel culture that we've got going? What about it? Should we cancel people or find a way to talk to people? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and let us talk about freedom of speech today. Of course, John Nichols will be with us talking about what's happening in Wisconsin. The GOP has gone crazy up in Wisconsin. They promised you they were going to try to impeach the progressive judge who was elected to Justice of the Supreme Court, and that is what they're trying to do. It's unbelievable. So call me at 773-763-9278. Hey, Andre. Hey, Francis. Hey, y'all, this morning, sending you so much love. Ashley from Memphis, Tennessee. Linear Bob is sending you all so much love. Everybody like and share. Please like and share, like and share, like and share. It is Tuesday, September 19th, 2023, and I am Santita Jackson coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 in Chicago and AM 950 radio, in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Let's get to some of these headlines. Canada accused India of playing a role in the killing of a Sikh leader outside of Vancouver. A prominent advocate for the creation of a separate Sikh state in the Punjab region of India was shot in his vehicle in June, and Prime Minister Trudeau's response was to tell Parliament yesterday that the killing violated Canadian sovereignty. India has denied involvement. This could be a big conflict. President Biden and Ukraine's leader will address the UN General Assembly today to reignite flagging global support for aid to Ukraine. The U.S. and Iran traded 10 prisoners in a complex deal, 5 of whom have landed on U.S. soil. Good for them. 5 American citizens held in Iran were released yesterday. They just landed about an hour ago. In return, the U.S. released 5 Iranians and unblocked the transfer of $6 billion of their money of frozen Iranian oil funds. And the U.S. News college rankings have been scrambled by formula changes. Many public universities climbed the list abruptly, while many private ones fell under a new formula that no longer considers class size or alumni giving. The new methodology tracks graduation rates of first-generation college students. Some universities no longer cooperate with the rankings, which have come under criticism. Working from home can be better for the environment. No kidding. Fully remote workers produce less than half the climate warming emissions of people who spend their days in offices, according to a study published yesterday. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 67 degrees. It will be cloudy. 80 degrees in Minneapolis, St. Paul, partly cloudy. In Major League Baseball, the Reds 7, the Twins 3. The Pirates will be playing the Cubs, and the White Hawks bested the Nationals 6-1 yesterday. In the NFL, the Browns fell to the Steelers. The Steelers 26, the Browns 22, and the Saints are triumphant over the Panthers 20-17. In the WNBA playoffs, well, our Chicago Sky are out, but the Lynx are still in there. They'll be playing the Sun tomorrow night. The Mystics will be playing the Liberty tonight, and the Dream will be playing the Wings. And those are the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Well, we had a bit of a switcheroo. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, who's generally with us on Friday, is going to be with us today. And Pastor Stephen Thurston, who's generally with us today, is going to be with us on Friday. I am so glad to see you, sis. Of course, that's the name of her book. I see you, sis. I see you, sis, the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York, the anointed, the powerful Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great this morning. How are you? I hope everyone is doing good.
Doing great. I'm doing great. God is good. Well, you know what? Alex is going to mute me, and I'm going to listen to you so that you will hear no sound, but I am here. What's on your mind today?
Good morning.
You have a caller, and you're on mute.
Today I want to talk about battle ballistics. Capital One has a popular slogan, "What's in your wallet?" And when they created that campaign, they wanted to ask three things. First, the question directs your attention to your wallet. And we all know the importance of our wallet. When we think about our wallet, it forces us to think about several important things. Our finances, purchasing power, credit access, all of those things that our wallet represents. The second reason they created this slogan was the question provoked some doubt in your mind as to whether you have what you really need or are supposed to have in your wallet. It opens an opportunity for making a suggestion. And of course, the goal is to make you believe that you can only have a complete wallet if you're carrying one of the Capital One credit cards in it. And lastly, the question is supposed to make those already have One credit feel wiser and like they're living a more satisfying life because they have this credit card. And like any other marketing slogan, it's hyperbolic because in fact, there's no particular card that can make your life significantly better than the next. In the end, it's about choices or decisions that you save money and out of unnecessary expenditures. But in thinking about this Capital One slogan, "What's in your wallet?" it actually brought me to the battle of David and Goliath. I know that sounds strange, but when I consider what's in your wallet, I think about David and Goliath, and I think about what's in your arsenal. We're not looking at a place, but what is it when it comes to our fighting? What's in your arsenal? Or that God has given to every one of us significant gifts, talents, and abilities to use in the battle. What we need to know is we need to understand the statistics of our battles. It's not about having faith, it's about having skill, it's about having vision, it's about having a battle plan. And when you understand the ballistics of your battle, you don't mind facing all the challenges. When we look at this story, it's the study of science and projectiles as much as it's about faith, as much as it's about this giant versus this little boy. It's about how they both felt confident in wielding the weapons of our warfare. I want to talk to somebody today who thinks you're facing your giant alone. The person who thinks they're facing their greatest obstacle, even right now, are not fit for battle. I've got good news for you. You have got an arsenal at your disposal. I've come to find out that David and Goliath are more common than they actually have differences. And one of the things that they have in common is that they were confident in their weaponry. They had experience with the weapons that they used. And because they had experience in the weapons that they used, they didn't have any problem using them. They believed in their ballistics. They were affirmed in their ammunition, and they were motivated by their munitions. So here's the question for all of you today. What skill, gift, or ability has God given you? That if you were dropped in a valley, if you were dropped in the battle, even as you face your giants, what would you use? If you knew you could not fail, what weapon would you wield to ensure your victory? Would you sing? Would you write? Would you organize? Would you create? Would you preach? Would you teach? What weapon is in your arsenal that can affirm you and give you the victory? Would you lead? Would you support? Would you empathize and understand? Would you be strategic or systematic? What weapon would you wield to win the fight? For me, it would probably be preaching. It's a gift that God has given me that always brings me joy, that always makes me feel fulfilled. But I also know it's not a gift that's just for me. It's a gift I to be a blessing to the world. And that's what your spiritual gift is. Your spiritual gift is so much more than a superpower. Your spiritual gift is what we use to worship God. And so whatever battle you're facing today, whatever giant is facing you, whatever thing has been taunting you, keeping you up late at night, whatever has been contributing to your tears being your food for this last year, for these last months, I want you to know today that you are equipped for battle. What is your weapon of choice? Choose ye this day your weapon and wield it in victory. And that's the good news.
I love that. Amen to that. Because God does not send you here empty-handed or short-handed. You have everything you
Correct.
need. But I think
Yeah.
really understanding what our gifts are and how to use them and when to use them, I think that's the tough part.
It is. It really.
But maybe that's why we
And
need that instruction manual.
Yes. What I found is the more that we use our gifts, the more gifts we become endowed with, the more faithful we are, gifts that God has given us. The more God increases certain gifts, the more heightened, the more better we become at using them. And so it pays to use our gifts for sure.
Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, everybody, get the book. I See You, Sis. You'll get so much more of this. This is about the women in the Bible, the women whose gifts have been hidden. And she says, I see you, sis. I see you, sis.
Yes,
and I see you. Sending you so much love today. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton. How can we worship with you on Sunday?
You can worship with us at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. We'd be glad to have you.
Oh, sending you so much love today. Thank you so very, very much. We have got Dr. Shanina Knight, an infection preventionist, with us today. How you doing? Pardon me for all the noise that you heard during during the break. What's on your mind today, Dr. Knighton?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
That's awesome. So I know, like yesterday, we talked about a little bit, just talking about natural disaster safety, because it is Emergency Preparedness Month in the month of September. But Santita, it's interesting because I know that literally there has been headlines in the news of even some scientists and doctors saying that because COVID has changed so much in regards to signs and symptoms, that without a test, they cannot differentiate if it's a common cold, if it's the flu, or if it's COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so while somebody might say, okay, well, yeah, that might be a good thing because that means that symptoms are less severe, we have to still remember that literally on an average day, there's 19,000 admissions across the country that's related to COVID. And the majority of the individuals that are taking up those spaces are older adults or are young babies. So we're talking about children, they're newborn up to about 5 years old, that are taking up those hospitalizations along with older adults, some of them which are 75 and older. So the purpose of me even saying that is this, is that while, yes, the majority of individuals may be at a phase of where they may be able to survive the side effects dealing with COVID, it's still being, meaning that, yes, for you, you might say like, oh, it's just a cough, it's just a sneeze, oh, I'm just a little bit under the weather. But understand that those droplets that you have that contain germs may be okay for you, but they may kill someone else. The unfortunate thing about germ transmission is that it's something that we cannot see. And so when you touch the elevator button, when you touch the escalator rails, when you've gone into the grocery store and you may have picked up multiple items and sat them back down after coming in contact with your nose, or you haven't contaminated hands, it's understanding that you may not be aware of that next child or that older adult that may touch that item that may be vulnerable. And so I just want to remind people today that when we talk about altruism, even how, we think about what the pastor said, and that's just even doing good without somebody noticing, or, just making sure that we are in the know and doing, the work of our higher power, even when no one's watching. That is that prime example. Because the thing is you don't know if you are hurting someone without knowing that you're hurting someone. But if you know that you are vigilant about your hand hygiene practices, meaning that you are cleaning between your hands, you are cleaning where the thumb meets the hand, you are making sure that you are aware of what it is that you're touching and practicing hand hygiene accordingly, you're doing your job to not only just keep you safe, but you're keeping others safe. The other piece of it is knowing is, yes, there are events that are going to come up. You may really want to go to that party, or may really want to go to that event. But again, thinking about the fact that one sneeze, which can contain a whole bunch of tiny particles that may come from you, may be okay coming from you for most, but what about the vulnerable populations that may be there in that setting? And so in that instance, sometimes it's best to stay home. Other instances, meaning, I understand that not everybody can stay at home. So some people might have the sniffles and they might say, well, I still got to go to work. And I don't know if it's allergies, if it's COVID, or if it's the flu, or if it's a common cold. I'm still going to tell you that masks do work when it comes down to source control. What is source control? That meaning that you are assuming that you are the source of illness, and that you wearing a mask then means that if something comes from your mouth when talking, and something comes from your mouth when sneezing, then it will leave. Most of the germs will be contained, and you don't have to worry about them getting on to others. Many do not want to admit this, but Santita, people spit talk. Oh. There are droplets that come from people's mouth when they talk. And so even keeping that distance is important, because somebody might say, well, I don't know why I got sick, or I don't know where I got sick from, when in all actuality, it could have been having a simple conversation with somebody and spit could have accidentally left their lips. And it happens to all of us. Mm-hmm. But it's just being aware of these things. So my words today is to remember hand hygiene. Remember to be the screener of your own health, meaning that if you are not well, stay home. If you are not well and can stay home, make sure that you are properly wearing a mask. And also make sure that you're protecting our elderly, and make sure that you're protecting our young. Because while, yes, COVID may look like a common cold, the flu, or allergies, it still is deadly to some.
Thank you for that. Because, you're not even aware that droplets are coming out of your mouth. It happens to others. Certainly, I know what happens to me. If you feel some dampness, guess what? Droplets. Think about that, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA, HEYDRNINA. Want to hear from you, need to hear from you. And I want you to follow her, because she's got such practical advice that can really help to keep us well. A friend of mine, he told me yesterday, I'm just getting over COVID. I said, really? He said, and I know where I got it. I said, where? He said, at a golf tournament. I said, but you were outside. He said, and people were hacking and coughing and talking and cheering. I know where I got it. I said, well, maybe it was in the clubhouse. He said, no, outside. Think about it, everybody. Let's talk about free speech. And Daryl, I'd love for you to call in. I'd love for you to talk about why you've been boycotting the show. I'm glad that you're not doing it today. But I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. I want to talk to you. Don't just throw some comments my way. Talk to me. Let's talk. 773-763-9278. We've got to engage, everybody. We've got to engage. That's why social media performers don't make it in television, because they're accustomed to talking at people, and that's what we're doing here. I want us to stop. I want us to start talking with one another. Talk with me. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, the Santita Jackson Show, in just a minute. Daryl, I hear you. Why don't you call in at 773? I'll put the number up here. 773, because I wasn't aware that you had been boycotting, but I'm not a cheerleader. You said that, and I'm going to read your comment on the air. And I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to alter what I do because you disagree. And I say that with love and respect because the thing is, we ought to be able to give each other space. I'm from a family of 7 people, and my parents were very clear. They said, we don't love our children. Dr. Knighton, are you still there? Well,
Yes, I'm still here.
my parents said, we don't love our children equally. We love them adequately. People look at them like, what? She said, no. My mother and father said, no. Different Jesse, Johnny, Jackie, and Yusuf and Santita need different things at different times. So if one child needs more attention, if one child needs less of this, if one child needs more of that, that's what we do. Okay. And so I'm not accustomed to, and we all have different perspectives. My family and I debate over dinner. Number one, we had dinner together every night. No matter what you were doing, if you had a date, whatever, no. The rule was we had dinner together, Dr. Knighton, every night. Okay. My parents were very, very sensitive to that. And, we enjoyed it. And we had different views about different things. But that didn't mean that I didn't love that I loved or liked my siblings any less. And of course, living in the same house, being in the family, I didn't have the luxury of a boycott. Okay. So I just believe in talking to people, even when I disagree with people. When it comes to President Biden, someone who I've known a long time and someone with whom we've had at times an adversarial relationship politically. I think he's done wonderful things as president, but I don't think that means that I'm not going to deify him. No, he's not God. He is a political figure, not just political figure. He's a public servant who we hired to do a job. And so I want him to do it. And it is my job as a citizen to push. I just do it in a way that I think is respectful. I do not call him out of his name. I don't impugn his integrity. I don't do that. I don't do that with Trump. I don't do that with anybody. I know what that feels like, Daryl. I don't want that for anybody. So I decided when I came into this space, Dr. Knighton, that I would do things a particular way. But I am not a lockstep Democrat. I'm an independent Democrat. I'm an independent grown woman.
But that's exactly what you should be. And I think the thing is, and this is where I get frustrated at, is we can't have, the whole thing about, hey, let's defend free speech. But then it's like people want to shut people up, and not listen to their opinions. I'm like, it just doesn't go hand in hand. Or it's, oh, well, you can talk, but unless you're saying what it is that I'm saying, then you pretty much, like, whatever it is you're saying is not acceptable. And I think that that's the dangerous part that we're in right now, is that there's a lot of groupthink that happens. And that groupthink means that there's not a diversity of ideas. There's no gray area. It has to be, let's say, a black and white. It has to be a left or a right. It has to be a Democrat or a Republican. And that's my issue with right now, because I can see
20 seconds
both sides, okay, but I can also see bad on both sides.
Hold on. Would you mind saying that on the air? And Alex, please
Sure.
text me who's here.
Stand by. We have Brian as a caller, said he's no longer listening.
Okay. But who else is here? Is Mr. McKee here? Is Reverend Wilson? Bryce? Let me know.
Yes, all your guests are on. Okay, except for Reverend Wilson. I'm still trying to get a hold of her.
We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. This is WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I am Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. And I want to hear your thoughts. Got a call yesterday. Dr. Knighton is still with us, but Mr. McKee is here, as is Bryce Green from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. And I called the station because I'm trying to continue to make improvements on the show. And I spoke with Mark Penske, who's been wonderful. He runs the station. He said, I know why you're calling. I said, okay. He said, let's talk about, there was a phone call that came. I said, I don't know anything about it. He said, oh, well, there's a gentleman who said that he is going to boycott your show, boycott your sponsors. He's going to boycott the station because he did not like the fact that you discussed Robert Kennedy yesterday. You discussed some medical issues. I said, no, I did not. I didn't mention any medical issues. You can't mention this particular issue because it gets you in trouble. I didn't say that. I was like, I was talking about the fact that this is the nephew of a president who was assassinated. His father was assassinated as he was on his way to what people thought was the nomination and perhaps the presidency, a presidency in which many believe he was going to reopen the case to find out who killed his brother. And the Kennedys have been in the political crosshairs now for, boy, almost really a century, just about. And I said it's noteworthy because he's been polling, he's gone up and down in the polls, but he's the most significant challenger at this time to President Biden. And more than that, not even, he is running for president, and we need to hear from him. But I thought it was significant that he's been asking for Secret Service protection. He's been refused. That's never happened since the rules were changed after his own father was assassinated. You didn't have Secret Service protection prior to 1968 for those who were running for office. But that changed after Robert Kennedy was killed. And when you have sufficient polling numbers, that is sufficient support, and when you have credible and voluminous death threats, that's what happens. They give you, you have to apply for it. You have to ask for it. I know because that happened with my father. Up until Barack Obama, he was the earliest protectee of the Secret Service in the history of American politics as a candidate because there were so many death threats against him. But I said I thought it was newsworthy and noteworthy, and I think we need to talk about it because it also speaks to this political atmosphere that we're not just seeing in the United States, but we're seeing around the world. We just had a major candidate killed in South America, and that's a harbinger of things to come if we're not careful. And I said, but what you should do, Mark, is listen to the air check. Just listen to the show. And I know what I said. I know what I didn't say. And he, to be fair, was not accusing me. He said, no, I don't need to listen. I said, you should, because you should hear everything that was said, even the YouTube show, so that you can hear everything that was said during the break. So there's that. But it spoke to, I saw a lot of comments in the chat line yesterday, and people were upset with me. They said, you're not sufficiently supportive of Joe Biden. I've been extremely supportive of Joe Biden. And the way you support people is also to engage in loving critique. My mother loves me. She almost gave up her life to have me. But trust me, every time she sees me, Dr. Knighton, Mr. McKee, and Mr. Green, there is always something that she, before the conversation ends or before the day ends, she's going to call me back and say, no, let me tell you what you just said or what you were wearing. You need to change that. That didn't fall right on my ear. Or I think, don't wear those earrings the next time. So I'm accustomed to criticism. I can deal with that. What I think is dangerous is for all of the tolerance and enlightenment that we say that we have, is that we're shutting people down. We're shutting people down. And so I'm going to bring on Brian, but before we bring on Brian, I want to read Daryl. And Daryl, I'm so glad that you reached out, but I hope that you will call in. You said, I will be leaving here in a minute. No, but let me go back to hear what you said. You were saying why you had boycotted the show. I want to go back. Okay, here it is. I think I found you. I have boycotted the show because I feel that you and your guests are talking against Biden and the Democratic Party at a time when we need for us to stick together to do everything we can to legally stop the Republicans from regaining power. The Democrats are not getting things that we want passed because we're being blocked by the Republicans in the House and the Senate. If we can get more Democrats to go, and vote, we will give Biden more power and backing to get the things that we want passed. I hear you. But the fact is, we gave him 80 million votes. Democrats are not the only problem here. We've been voting and voting and voting and voting. And please do not say, not you, Daryl, or anyone, that Black people need to vote more. Black people over-index in the vote, and particularly Black women. We vote. We do what we're supposed to do. Now, what Democrats need to stop doing is reaching for people who they lost. These white Reagan Democrats who they lost 40 years ago, who they lost when we signed the Voting Rights Act, which LBJ said, I've lost the South, I've lost Democrats. I've lost a whole chunk of them because I enforced the amendment to the Constitution that gave Black people the right to vote. This is not my fault. And so engaging in critique, no, this is what was in the New York Times. America has a free speech problem. For all the tolerance and enlightenment that modern society claims, Americans are losing hold of a fundamental right as citizens of a free country, the right to speak their minds and voice their opinions in public without fear of being shamed or shunned. So, right, but I want you to call me today. Let me hear from you, Brian. Brian, what's on your mind? I'm so glad that you called in. Is Brian still there? Okay, well then let me go to Jim from Chicago. Jim, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita. Trump over the weekend said he's going to save us from demonic possession.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that going for us. If anybody could do it, he could do it. You know what I mean, Santita? Demonic possession. I've heard a lot of stump speeches in my life, but that one, you can scour history books. I don't think anybody running for president said he's going to save us from demonic possession, but he said it's over the weekend.
So why do you think that
he's not going to go to prison? You know why? Because he's not going to prison. He's going to an asylum. He belongs in an asylum with a net over his head. And that's the guy who's running. That's the guy that's 45% of the people are going to vote for. An absolute lunatic. Anyway, you figure it out. Demonic possession? Who ever used that in a stump speech? I've never heard it before in my life. Anyway, good luck with this guy. That's all I got to say. Peter, have a good morning.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, let me get to, I think I want to hear from you all today. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278, because indeed, if the gentleman who called and made the complaint to the station is still listening, I would love to hear from you. And I am not going to tell people that if you disagree with me, then you love me or leave me. I don't believe in that either. I think, I think we need to hash it out and hug it out. I'm not afraid of a confrontation. I'm not afraid of an argument, and you should not be either. But what I will not tolerate is disrespect. See, you would have had to have grown up the way I grew up, where I had to turn on the television and listen to hostile commentators talk about my father and go to school on that with some teachers who were hostile, who wanted to grade me down, but I had to work real hard, grind it out so that I wouldn't even give them the space to do so. You had to grow up with the Chicago police outside of your house like I did, knowing that they participated in the killing of Fred Hampton, but that they'd been dispatched by the mayor to protect our house. But we had a Black security firm inside of the house, but Black folks tried to help kill Fred Hampton too. So what was I to do? Many of you might remember, Dwight, when Vernon Jordan, one of the most important leaders of the civil rights leaders of the last half of the last century, who had been head of the Urban League. You remember when he was shot, Dwight?
I do.
Okay.
He was in a hotel
in Indiana.
I think in Indiana. Yeah.
Well, of course, Bryce wouldn't remember this because he wasn't born yet. But I was talking with Frank Watkins, who had been my father's press secretary up until his death last year. More than 50 years. He was his longest serving staff member. He said, Santita, you remember when Vernon Jordan was shot? I said, yeah, I do. He said, the man who shot him sat outside of the push office for a week. I said, really? He said, mm-hmm. He said he was tracking our movements, but he was really trying to track your father's movements because he had intended to kill him. So he went on top of buildings, and he became frustrated because my father was gone most of the week. But then when he got in, I think maybe on a Wednesday or Thursday, maybe on a Tuesday, he came in and he started following it, but he couldn't figure out how to shoot him, kill him, and then get in his car and get away. I grew up in that kind of crucible. Okay. And Dwight would know that because Dwight's known me since I was 2. So when I came into this space, I want to be honest with you. I want to share with you what I have learned in these halls of power. My brother Jonathan, when he was running for Congress, said, I've been in the room. We've been in the room. When the powers that be would ask Reverend as he's running for president, what do you really want? And he would say, I want to end poverty. And they would laugh at him. What? Poverty is not funny? Not when you're hungry. No. No. It's okay when you drop a bomb on people, but it's not funny having a bomb dropped on you. So I want to continue to open this discussion. I want to talk about Robert Kennedy, and I'm going to talk with him because I want to hear him, and I think you should hear from him. And then if you decide to shun him, go ahead. But you don't need to vilify him. Remember, vilification leads to assassination. We need to be careful with that because we did that to Dr. King, Dwight. Softened up the ground so he could be killed. Then everybody was bereft in that evening when Robert Kennedy announced in Indianapolis that he'd been killed. It's too late. You wouldn't let him in your church yesterday. I'm on Biden's side. You heard Chaparral and other people call. They want a Justice and Policing Act. They want an executive order on that, and they want it on voting rights. And if I cannot criticize him for all, you got a hemorrhage of Black men who are running to Trump. You got to talk to that. You got to speak to that. More and more Americans are moving away from the Democratic Party. That is not my fault. I've got to get the Democratic Party in alignment with people and their needs. And you're not going to do it if you let them stay where they are, they have been corporatized. And the corporatization was done in response to us registering more voters than had ever been registered in the history of the Republic. So let's talk about this free speech problem that we've got, because I think we have one. We really, really do. Starting with you, Dwight McKee, what do you think about free speech?
I think it's essential to life itself. It's the First Amendment. You know, it is it's the cloud that the whole society rains down from. It's what makes a democracy. And in correction to what the brother had to say is, I don't have any obligation to the Republicans or the Democrats. My first obligation is to myself. One try to say to your own self, be true. Start there. And so everything that I talk about and everything I deal with is an extension of my own personal beliefs and my own personal analysis. I'm not pro-Biden. I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not anti-Trump. I'm not anti-Biden. I'm pro my values and pro my ethos and pro my ethics. And I try to do in my understanding of what said the Lord. And so all I do is I don't really take a side. I tell you what I see. You know, you can deny gravity, but you can't defy gravity. Just because you don't believe in it don't mean it don't exist. Because you want to deny it don't mean it ain't real. And so all I do is say, okay, here's the data. Here is, the cause and effect. Here's the consequence you're thinking in this. This is where I think it's going. Now, whether it goes there or not, it may or may not. But it is my assessment of the information that I'm working with. And whether you co-sign on it or don't co-sign on it, it's your business. And you have every right not to. I am as committed to your opposition of me as you are committed to being opposed to me. You have that right. But don't think that because that's your fundamental belief that I have to adjust to that because that's how you see things. Give me a break.
Bryce Green, your thoughts before I go to the callers?
I think that it's imperative for anyone who's living in this democracy to be able to understand that other people are going to have, dissenting views from you. I write about, the Russia-Ukraine conflict all the time. And, every piece I write, I get someone in my DMs or adding me on Twitter talking about how what I'm doing is treasonous because I don't adhere to the line that's shared by the State Department, by Joe Biden, by Tony Blinken, by all those people. But that's because they've been conditioned for so long to see any sort of dissent from that point of view as treasonous. And I think that people need to, I don't mean to be rude, but people need to grow up when it comes to how they understand how other people are able to express their political views. If you have a problem with the way someone's expressing themselves, that's fine. And if you have a problem with the facts that someone brings up, then you can tell them. But this idea of, the gentleman said he's going to boycott you and your sponsors. So what exactly are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to bury your head in the sand without making a logical argument as to why your side has the correct point of view? If you're unable to stand the very thought of someone else having an opposing view, then you don't want to participate in a democracy. You don't want to participate in a pluralistic society. It's extremely important. I spend most of my time reading opinions, reading points of view that I vehemently disagree with. But I'm not out there complaining and threatening boycotts. And this idea that, Joe Biden is, worth, throwing away, free speech and throwing away anyone's right to criticize him. Like Santita said, there are a lot of good things that Joe Biden has done, but there are a lot of horrible things that Joe Biden has done. You can talk about funding this proxy war in Ukraine. You can talk about, continued support for Saudi Arabia, continued support for Israel, continued putting kids into cages at the border, he restarted student loan payments, and he kicked millions of people off of Medicaid, and he refused to raise the minimum. I could go on. And all of these things are legitimate criticisms of Joe Biden, and they should be understood. If you can't stand hearing those, if you can't stand the fact that you might have to reconcile some contradictions in a political figure, then I don't really consider you a serious person. That's just my opinion. I don't speak for Santita, but that's just how I view it.
Well, I take people and their opinions seriously, and I'm certainly not implying, and I don't want you to infer that I don't think that you do. I'm just trying to hear where people are coming from. I'm kind of almost like Dwight. I'm the weather girl. I'm not bringing the clouds. I'm just telling you they are right above your head, and I think that we need to understand that. Let me go to Shar. Shar, what's on your mind? You had a comment about yesterday's show. Is Shar there? Okay. Well, then I will go to, is it Bob?
It is Bob.
Okay, Bob,
Hello?
How are you? Good hearing your voice.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm
good.
doing great.
Yeah, I talked before. The whole freedom of speech thing, it has been going on. There is a suppression, and I don't know if people are trying to do it on purpose, but we're so afraid of the word racism, right? We don't want to speak because no one wants to call the racist. So any opposing view, it seems now, that's where people go to. And the funny part to me is it's not black people calling white people racist. It's white people. And I feel like they're trying to manipulate the black vote by doing that and shutting the white people up. And that just makes me sort of like, it's not black people calling me a racist anymore. And I'm not that I'm racist, but I'm an independent thinker. And I think that does shut us down because I don't want to say anything at work or talk to anybody that's going to just like, oh, you don't know this and blah, blah. No, this is just my opinion. Debate me. I can't debate anymore, so I just shut up. And I think a lot of people do. They just don't want to talk anymore. And about simple things. I would look at the Leah Thomas thing with transgender. I don't know how anybody feels. I'm not against transgender people, but for me to be able to look at that and say, boy, I think that was unfair. And for that to go crazy that you think that was unfair? Well, yeah, look at the size of the woman. But like that. So that's where, yes, we definitely are shutting down speech and people just aren't talking.
Yeah,
that's not a good thing.
Why do you think it's not a good thing?
Because you don't get to hear what we're really thinking, how we got to that opinion.
Yeah.
And to say that we're haters or that is that you're going way too far. That's just really a different opinion in how I look at it. So just listen to it. You don't have to agree with me like your previous caller said, but at least listen to me. We don't even listen now. You can't. And that's why I like listening to all different shows. I like all different opinions because that's how you learn. We have to learn. We all don't think the same. We all don't come from the same place, but let's just try to learn and understand. So, yeah, I definitely think free speech has been under attack for a while. And it's just underground. We don't say what we want to say.
But you know what, Bob? You know what Dr. King said? Riots are the language of the unheard. People will be heard.
Right.
So, I mean,
you know. No, look,
you know, so it's like at some point people are going to be heard. And so, you know.
What is it called?
Yes, no. I've got to go to break, but you got the last minute here.
Okay. I remember, was it called the Bradley effect in California?
Mm-hmm.
Where that one elected. Yeah.
And Tom Bradley, the mayor of Los Angeles, African American, was running, and he was ahead in the race. And then the last weekend before the election, they ran ads showing his picture, and he lost. And this was 40.
Yeah, right. So I mean that's sort of what we do. We suppress things.
And the thing, and you know what? And the thing is, he was so quiet. He was a milquetoast mayor. He was no radical.
Right.
But he could not run away from that black thing. Oh no. I'm hearing you.
No. Right. So I do enjoy your show. So
Bob, you are a hot mess. # Bob hot mess. Where'd you come up with that this morning? Everybody call us. I'm going to talk to you, Shar and Pam, on the other side of the break. But you know, we're talking with Bryce Green and Dwight McKee. We're going to have attorney Mark Fancher from Detroit, talking to us about, and I think we're going to be joined very briefly by Reverend Jeanette Wilson, because I have so much room today, and I'm trying to get the callers in. So I'm going to have to bring you all in and out. But I do want to hear your thoughts today. Some people enjoyed the show yesterday as we talked about Robert Kennedy, and one or two said, hey, you've gone too far. What are you going to do when I bring him on? What are you going to do? I mean, you didn't have this complaint about Marianne Williamson. I want to talk to everybody. I think that you need to hear everybody. You deserve that. I respect you enough to bring you information, not just regurgitation, something that I'm bringing up. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. And Daryl, you said you're right, but you know what? You said you're an elder in the church, and I respect that. But that doesn't mean that you can't talk to me. I mean, you keep on talking online, but you're talking at me. You're not talking with me. And I think that you should do that. I think that, you know, that would be nice to hear your voice. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You know, because we're accustomed to talking at people, not talking with them, Bryce. And that becomes the problem. That's part of the problem of the age. We text folks. We don't want to make the phone call. Do you know how much nuance you miss in a text, Bryce, Dwight? Think about that. You miss a whole lot.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
The tone, the pause.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, you think someone was being unkind to you. It's just like saying I love you, and the delay can kill the relationship. You know, it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, so it's like there's so much that we are missing by not talking with one another.
So, yeah, and Caiaphas was an elder. Caiaphas was an elder in the church, and he crucified Jesus. I mean, that don't give you any validation to me because you're nailed in the church. It is what your values are and what your respect for other people and their opinions are. You've been an elder in the church don't give you inherent status for anything to me.
Well, Tracy Lewis said you allow people to blame Biden for not signing executive orders that will be challenged and overturned by SCOTUS. No, they're not going to be overturned by SCOTUS. What they're going to do is they only last for the presidency. That's what executive orders do. And then if you want to sign another executive order, if the next president wants to sign it, they can. Executive orders, you don't take them to the Supreme Court. No. You just sign it. It lasts for the length of one's presidency. That's all. And if they're challenged, you need to stand up for me and my right to vote. That's how you got in, because 80 million of us voted for you. In spite of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act being gutted. Yeah. And I'm going to push back on him like that because he has never been a real supporter of voting rights anyway. No, he hasn't. Didn't support busing. There's a whole lot. I know those are some of his inclinations, but he is a brilliant politician who is responding to the zeitgeist, to the spirit of the times. The spirit of the times are calling on him to do what he's doing. And you know what? He's smart enough to do it. And I appreciate it. See, I don't fall in love. I don't even fall in line. I need you to do what I need you to do. And then I keep it moving. I love someone who's in politics right now, and that's my brother. I'm kind of out of that. I don't do that my father even told me when he was running for president, don't make this personal now, because this isn't about us. This is about all these people we registered to vote and all these poor and hungry people we're representing here. So that's where I am with this. Jeanette, you there? I'm only going to be able to keep you for a couple of minutes because I wanted to keep you on in this last segment.
Yes.
But why don't you make this comment, because I've got a lot of callers in. But what's on your mind? Because I know you got a busy day.
Well, I think that free speech is good, and it's also very dangerous when it's misused and abused. And when the Constitution was written, there was no social media. There were not national radio and television connections like we have today. And so now, what we consider free speech is really our freedom to communicate, but our communication is shaped by what we hear, what we see in the social media outlets, which allow us to bully each other because it's free speech. I can say what I think about you using what I consider to be free speech. And most people don't know what the constitutional mandate really says. And it's not clearly defined for this context that we now live in. So I think as we listen to each other, hear each other, we need to begin to ask questions like, what is that thing based on? And what factual pattern are you looking at to make these determinations? When we look at the election, was it stolen? Or is that a mythical idea that a candidate had because that candidate did not win, did not get what he or she thought they should have received? Does free speech allow you to disparage the rule of law and say that the law doesn't say what it says? Not looking at the limitations of the laws, but you're simply saying because you see it being applied to you in a way that you find negative, you then say that you don't have to follow that law on the books. And so it's a real interesting principle because, when you look at foreign countries, and you've traveled the world, Santita, so in some countries, there's no freedom of expression. You can't decide to disagree with the government. You do so publicly and verbally. You could find yourself arrested, and as many of our American people have found themselves. I think it's something that we have to have discussions about. It should be taught in school, elementary and high school. You don't have the freedom of speech to harm others based on what you say or do.
Well, Dr. King didn't have it, Jeanette. He was trailed by the government and trolled by the government, and many people feel killed by it. I mean, so it's like
Absolutely.
freedom of speech, freedom of expression. We don't have it. And Tracy, you are writing to me.
There's 1
You're
minute.
addressing me. So don't be disingenuous now. You're too bright for that. You said, your comments, other than today, are not necessarily for you to read. Then why are you writing them? And if you want to correct half truths, I'm gonna correct you because I researched this show. I get about 2.5, 3 hours of sleep a night, finding and verifying. So no. If you want to challenge me on the facts, I told you to bring it on. Let's do it. Because if I am incorrect, then correct me and source it out so that I can bring it to the audience and make it correct. Because I'm not here to lie to anybody. But yeah, you're addressing me. You're addressing me every day because you're not addressing the general the morning stars. That's not how you make your comments. You make your comments and they're pointed and they're to me. I don't take them personally. I don't even know you. I'm glad that you listen in. But that's what I'm saying. You want to poke, but you don't want to talk
10 seconds.
with. I think that's problematic. And we are not going to
Stand by.
win doing that. We're not. We're not going to win.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Let's talk about free speech. And we've got some wonderful comments. Sharon and Pam, I'm going to get to you in a hot second. On the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. I'm glad we've been able to open up the phone lines and talk with you today. Because I just don't think we should be writing at each other and talking at each other. We need to talk with each other and disagree without being disagreeable. Let's be respectful. That's all I've ever asked on this platform. That's all I've ever asked, that you be respectful, and then I'm good. So, everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Attorney Mark Fancher, I'm so glad that you have joined us, and Dwight McKee and Bryce Green from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. I know Reverend Jeanette Wilson joined us for a brief moment. I knew she's going to have to go, but I'm going to get these callers in. But first, I must get the headlines in, everybody. Canada accused India of playing a role in the killing of a Sikh leader outside of Vancouver. A prominent advocate for the creation of a separate Sikh state, free state in the Punjab region of India, was shot in his vehicle in June, and the Prime Minister of Canada is blaming India. Wow, an involvement that they deny. President Biden and President Zelensky of Ukraine will address the UN General Assembly today. Their goal is to reignite flagging global support for aid to Ukraine. The United States and Iran traded 10 prisoners in a complex deal. Indeed, 5 of those prisoners, thankfully, landed in the United States just a couple of hours ago. The U.S. News college rankings have been scrambled by formula changes. Indeed, private ones fell, public ones were lifted. Everything is changing, everybody. Some universities are no longer even cooperating in all of this. Good for them. Working from home can be better for the environment. Of course, you're not using gas. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 67 degrees. It will be cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 80 degrees, partly cloudy. In Major League Baseball, the Reds 7, the Twins 3. The Pirates will be playing the Cubs later on, and the White Sox bested the Nationals 6-1 yesterday. And in the NFL, 2 games last night. The Steelers 26, the Browns 22, and the Saints 20, and the Panthers 17. The WNBA playoffs are in full swing, everybody. Our Sky are out, but we love you. At least you brought a championship home just a couple of years ago. We love the Chicago Sky, but you know what? The Lynx are still in it. Tomorrow they'll be playing the Sun, but tonight the Mystics will be facing off against the Liberty, everybody. And so this is really, 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 really great. This is exciting, everybody. Before we get to the callers and before we get to this topic of free speech, and John Nichols will be joining us at the bottom of the hour, I want you to think about home ownership. Even in these uncertain economic times, you could be a first-time home buyer, but you can't have owned a home in the last 3 years. You might have owned one 4 years ago, but over the past 3 years, if you've not owned a home, you are just that much closer to owning a home. But you need to call Team Hochberg and find out if you're eligible to for this Fannie Mae Freddie Mac program. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, so that you can Give them all of your information. If you're on the verge of foreclosure, they can help you. If you think you might be missing a paycheck and you might be creeping up to foreclosure, they can help you. They can help you. They have all kinds of financial products, including a credit card that can help you to rebuild or build your credit. Your credit might be in the 500s or the 600s. Before the year is out, they can have you in the 600 or 700. Yeah, they can, but you need to get their credit card. But I want you to know that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are looking out for you. They want to turn around the numbers as they watch fewer and fewer Americans buying homes. The numbers continue to drop, and they're incentivizing home ownership by lowering mortgage rates. But you have to call to find out if you're eligible for this program. Go to 56david.com. You might be surprised at what you find. Call them at 855-56-DAVID. If you are in Chicago and you earn less than $105,700, that is the total income, the heads of your household. And more, these households it's not just mom and dad or partners. It's a lot of people holding up a household because it costs a lot to live. Well, if the total income of your household is below $105,700, you might be eligible for this program if you have not owned a home within the past 3 years. So call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID to see if you qualify and establish some multi-generational wealth. That's right, homeowners beget other homeowners and on and on and on. If you own a home, more than likely your children will be homeowners, and on it goes. So please call Team Hochberg for all of your housing needs. Everybody, let me go before I pivot to you, attorney Mark Fancher and Bryce Green and Dwight McKee. I'm going to get a quick comment from Jeanette Wilson. Shar and Pam have been holding. Shar, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita.
Good morning, Shar. How are you?
I'm good. I first wanted a little bit of clarity. Did I hear correctly that you had RFK on your show or that you're having him on your show?
I'm going to have him on my show. And yesterday I was going to have his campaign manager, former Congressman Dennis Kucinich. But and in fact, I spoke with him on Sunday and he agreed to be on. But he had to fly to California, which is where Attorney Kennedy is. And so we're going to reschedule. But yeah. I mean, I had Marianne Williamson on the show. I can't wait to have Cornel West on the show. Yes, Shar, what's on your mind, babe?
I commend you. I commend you. And I thank you. I have been listening to Robert Kennedy since before the pandemic. And African Americans are intelligent people. And I promise you, if we listen to him, we will be very, very clear why they don't want you to hear his message. He is the most humane, comprehensive. He is very intelligent, very much about problem solving. He's brilliant. If you go to his page, he has a plan written out for African Americans, unlike any other president has had. He's very clear about the needs for our community, and I just think this attack on free speech is real. It's real, and the problem is it's coming from. And what's sad is it is, and I'm a Democrat. It's coming from the Democratic Party. They don't want us to hear dissenting voices. They demonize them. They start calling them conspiracy theorists. They use all of these labels to stop you from hearing. And I think what's happening to people, why we become so polarized, is because we're fearful. We're fearful. We're not only fearful of quote unquote Donald Trump taking over, but we're also fearful of the fact is that if we hear someone who speaks against our party who is right, then we'll be wrong. We really have to shut down our egos and listen, because the things that this current president and administration have implemented have been very dangerous. I am not a warmonger. I don't believe in war, and I don't believe that most of us do. War is an antiquated effort to fix a problem. It's never fixed any problem. It's only put more money into the corporations who fund it. It does absolutely for the countries that you go in. It does absolutely nothing for the communities that we live in. And I think that, like our grandparents said, that health starts at home. You have to sweep around your own front door. When Biden came in office, even though the African American went to the polls in droves, who did he help first? We have to be real about these facts. $54 million to an Agent hate bill after 8 Haitians were killed. Now, that's unfortunate that happened, but $54 billion, $110+ billion to a war, where hundreds and thousands of people, and you have to really research the numbers because hundreds and thousands of Ukrainian men are being slaughtered. They are being slaughtered. And I don't care if it's on that side of the planet or this side. That is wicked. War is evil. Because could you imagine if a bomb dropped down in the city of Chicago or New York? Could you imagine?
No.
And I don't think that we sit down and we think about what people are actually going through when these types of things happen.
Char, let me ask you this, because I need to bring on Pam, and I want you to stay with us for a while, okay? Because I'm glad we opened up the phone lines today. How does it make you feel as a voter and as a consumer of the news? Just very briefly, if you don't mind, because I need to bring in as many people as I can.
Okay, I got you.
No. I'm hearing you, and I want you to be heard. That's why I opened up phone lines like this today. When you're not hearing,
as a voter,
when you're not hearing, when you see different candidates shut out, what does that say to you?
That says to me that this is a dangerous attempt to take away our constitutional right of free speech. That's exactly what that says. And that it's being done and there's an agenda behind it. It's dangerous, particularly when those who are shutting down the voices are funded by the corporations and the pharmaceutical industry that want to continue an agenda that this has nothing to do with anything more than the corporations continuing an agenda. So for me personally, as a voter, I vote my interest. And I think you're not going to trick me into voting because I fear for somebody coming in. And that's how they got us. I knew that it was anybody who's taking marketing understood that the slogan, vote blue no matter who, was dangerous. I knew what that was about. The reason why they said no matter who, because the other side of that was no matter what we don't give you, we don't have to offer you or your community, African Americans particularly, who are the most disinvested community. We don't have to do anything for your community. You just vote for him, so you don't have to vote. You don't have to get him. That was a fear tactic. I knew exactly what they were doing.
Okay.
And we need to be careful of those type of messages. We need to vote our interests, and we need to go online, and we need to research these candidates and see what they're bringing to the table for our own eyes. Don't let anyone else tell you your narrative. Tell you a narrative about someone else.
Well,
think about what it happens to you as a person.
Stay right there. Put her on hold because I don't want you to leave. Pam, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita. You have every right to, have whatever guest you want to have, and they have every right to speak whatever their mind is. But for me, I always question motive when I hear guests. Is there really an agenda? Because when I hear certain guests just repeating Republican talking points, then that gives me some frame of reference. When I hear people repeating Democratic talking points, that gives me some frame of reference. But here is where I am now, post-Trump. I'm tired of people trying to put in fear if Trump is in jail, he'll become a martyr, or his base will rally.
Trump is a criminal. And I believe a sexual predator and a rapist. Rape is a violent crime for me, Santita. So that's a non-starter. So when I hear your guest, Mr. Green, and I hear him talk about Ukraine and issues that are
Bryce
wrong.
is still here. Bryce is still here.
Okay, Mr. Green, sure. I may not be well read enough, Santita, or informed enough about the issue to ask the questions. Because as I've said to you, I've heard Mr. Green and I've heard Malcolm Nance, and they both come from different points of view. Now, to Mr. Green, I heard you just run off a list of things about Joe Biden. But what I didn't hear, as a Black woman, I know what Joe Biden has done to the Black community. And that's had the 3 strikes, you're outlaw, the crime bill that's devastated the Black community. But I didn't hear you mention that. So firsthand, I know. So what I'm saying is Trump for me.
Firsthand,
and
you
the
know.
Republican Party.
Wait a minute, Pam. Firsthand, you know. Firsthand, you know what?
And firsthand, for me, I know we have a 2-party system right now. And what I see coming from the Republican Party is totally unacceptable for me.
Are you open to? Let me ask you this: would you like to? Because I'm going to have Cornel West on the show. Do you want to hear him?
Absolutely.
Oh no, I'm making no assumptions.
No, and I don't mean that. But I mean, yes, Santita, absolutely.
New caller.
I want to hear from all of your guests. But as I said in the beginning, I do question, is there an agenda? And I question motive.
Well,
but that's me. Maybe everybody doesn't do that.
Stay right there. Put her on hold like we have Shar on hold. Bryce, your agenda, what is it?
Well, my agenda is to make sure the working class has enough to eat, has a safety net, is able to exist without poverty. My agenda is to make sure that the American war machine isn't shooting weapons all around the world, fueling conflicts, rejecting negotiations, and subjugating countries to the economic and financial interests that lie in the United States. That's my agenda, and I think that it should be everyone's agenda. It's in everyone's interest to see the American empire wind down. It's in everyone's interest to see everyone have enough to eat, to see everyone have a healthy lifestyle. And, the problem with Biden, and you can make the argument that he's better than Trump. You can also make the argument that he is more dangerous in some ways. But my point is that if someone doesn't believe that Joe Biden is, the right choice, I don't think that someone should completely boycott the show because they express that opinion. I think that should be debated, discussed.
Dr. Yuri's on.
Disagreements are part of democracy. And that's just a natural fact that people are going to have to live with. But I think that I don't think that you are one of those people who are, trying to get people silenced, trying to cancel a show, trying to cancel your patronization of the show. But some people are. And I think that's a very dangerous feature in our democracy when people are like, well, Joe Biden is the only choice, and I'm not going to hear anything else. That's dangerous because Joe Biden is dangerous, because they're all dangerous. And if we're unable to seriously contemplate alternatives, if we're unable to seriously have a discussion about why these mainstream politicians, why both parties, this duopoly system is inherently dangerous, well, then we're going to be stuck in it for the foreseeable future. And frankly, I don't want that to happen because that's how you expand American empire. That's how corporate fascism takes over in America. And I think that's worth fighting against.
Mark Fancher, your thoughts? We've heard a lot, but I'm so glad that you've been so patient because I really wanted to bring people in. Felt that it was important for us to have this discussion today, Mark, because I don't want people to think. I want you to know that I feel I'm a steward of these airwaves. Really, that's all. And I have my opinions for sure, but I'm gonna bring people to you. I want you to get some information. A lot of people get up here and they just really are just running their mouths and they're not giving you information. They don't trust you or respect you enough to give you information and let you make up your mind for yourself. I don't need you to do talking points. I don't do that. I go do research and I try to give you truth. Mark Fancher, your thoughts?
Well, I would say or ask the question, what does it profit a person to win an election if in the process they lose their souls? And, with apologies to Jesus. I think that too often people fall into the trap of believing that, and in a certain part of it is just a certain arrogance. They fall into the trap of believing that we really do control what's going to happen, and that we can, through our clever thoughts and actions and strategies, somehow make a difference, and that sometimes it manifests in our trying to be quote unquote pragmatic, and when really what we should be doing is focusing on what God wants. And there are certain principles which cannot be compromised, in terms of how we deal with each other as people, in how we live together as community, in terms of how we love. And we have to be guided by those fundamental principles, whatever our religious orientation may be. And when we begin to compromise those things in the interest of pragmatism, in the interest of trying to avoid a real or contrived danger, then we slide ever deeper into a society that's very cynical, a society that's very driven by fear and suspicion and hatred. And as part of maintaining that type of integrity, we have to remain open to the possibility that individuals who come forward with the promise of leadership are people who are acting and speaking and thinking consistent with the principles that we will not compromise. And in order to do that, we have to think outside of the two-party box, because both of those parties are really the same party with two names. And their agenda has been demonstrated time and time again to be a capitalist imperialist agenda, which is hell-bent on making a few people and a few corporations rich and destroying everybody else. And so if we really want to love each other, if we want to live in community, if we want to uphold and uplift the best of humanity, then we've got to reject that, and we've got to listen to alternative voices. And I think the best indication of the value of listening to alternative voices is the pushback that we get, the resistance that we get when we try to do it. If we're not doing the right thing, then whenever we do the right thing, we're going to get resistance. That's an indicator that we're on the right path. So in that sense, your show is right on the money, right on target, because of the resistance that it's getting.
Well, that is your opinion, and I appreciate it, but other people don't share it, and I appreciate that too. And we're gonna continue this discussion. I just reached out to John Nichols to see if he'll participate in this, but I think this is important to hear, Dwight McKee, what everybody is thinking. Laura Bell, I'm going to get you on the other side of the break. Dwight, why don't you respond to what you've heard thus far? And Reverend Uri, welcome. I've got 1 minute, Dwight.
Well, again, you want to know what my motives are. I'm just the mirror on the wall. If you don't want to know what you look like, don't want to know what you look like, don't look at me, because I'm just going to reflect what I see. And if you got a pimple, that ain't my fault. That's your fault. That's your situation. Not even your fault. But don't blame me. I'm just reflecting what I see. As is Mark, as most of the guests that I know on your show, I think that in a democracy, you need to hear what everybody has to say and everybody's perspective, and then try to make up your own mind. My fear is that I think that a lot of these guys who represent the Democratic Party, for example, are not trying to protect us from Trump. I think they're trying to protect their own position, because they ambush not just Trump, but anybody who is a threat to them, whether it's Kennedy, whether it's Bernie Sanders, whether it's Cornel West. Anybody who's a threat to their position becomes the enemy. And so I don't even think it's about them and Trump, or them trying to protect us and save us from Trump. I think a lot of their motives is trying to save their access and protect their access.
And at the end of the day, Dwight, as we go to this break, I'm fighting for you. I want your interests protected, period. And the only way you can do that is to get information. You need to hear everybody and then make it. And then this is the primary season. You're not supposed to fall in line now. You're supposed to like who you like, work for whom you work for. Then we get to the convention. And if your candidate is not the nominee, you push to get some of their issues on the party platform. That's how this is supposed to work. You're not supposed to do this now. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Oh.
Miss Jackson, I have to open up a line.
Okay. Okay, I have Dwight McKee, I have Bryce.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Oh, Bryce, you leave. You have to go to class.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sweetie. Thank you so much. Okay, then you know what, you can move.
All right.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you for being with us today.
Happy to do it.
Bryce is in school. Everybody's in graduate school. So why don't we move Reverend Dr. Yuri over? So, I guess so we can continue to keep the lines open. We still have Laura on, right?
Yes, we have Laura, and Shar is on hold as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Whew. Well, I'm glad that we've had this time together, y'all. I'm gonna have to run. Okay. Then I'm gonna have John Nichols on tomorrow, because I don't want him to walk in the middle of this.
Okay, should I call him and let him know?
Yeah, but I just sent him a text. But absolutely, just tell him, because this is I don't want to fuse. I don't want to conflate what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about with John Nichols. Oh, thank you so much, sweetie. What we're going to be talking about with John Nichols tomorrow is the GOP push against progressive Democrats in the state of Wisconsin who were elected. You know, they have a bottom-up strategy that has been working. When people keep talking about Trump and how he lost all these seats, that is not true. I read to you from Ballotpedia. He won almost 90% of his candidates won from coast to coast, like 88%. So when the media will tell you these untruths, what else are they going to say? What? Ridiculous. Reverend Dr. Yuri, how are you? Is Reverend Yuri on?
Good
Everybody?
morning. I'm well. How are you?
Okay, great. Make sure you all stay off mute, because I need to.
Hello. How are you?
Okay, Reverend. I didn't know you were still with me, Reverend Wilson. I'm going to give you a comment, then I'm going to let you go. Okay?
Well, I can come tomorrow.
No. What? I don't know what we're going to be doing tomorrow, but what I want you to do is make your comment. But I've got all these callers on hold, so stay right there.
Yes,
Hold on. I try to schedule you early because of your other duties, and that is what happened here. And when we didn't get you, that kind of threw things off, but we'll work it out. So stand by. But everybody, we're still on Facebook. So does anyone have anything else they want to say? Todd, I know you're about to say something.
Yeah, I'm in the ride share, so I'm about to get dropped off at the courthouse. So
okay, lovely. Okay.
But I do have a few thoughts.
Okay. Well, Dwight, you want to continue? You want to continue what you were saying at the break? I'm inside of a minute, Dwight.
Oh, I was just saying that I think that a lot of this is about people protecting their own interest, and it's not even about Trump. It's about anybody who becomes a threat to their position and to their proximity to power, whether it's Bernie Sanders, whether it's Cornel West, whether it's Kennedy, or whoever becomes a threat
30 seconds.
to their security, they paint with the same brush. And so that says to me, it's not about a Republican or Democratic thing. It's about them protecting their own proximity to power. And so when they were asking about motives, I think
10 seconds.
A lot of these guys' motives are.
Absolutely.
And so they don't want any opposition. They don't want any competition.
Stand by.
About anything.
Stand by.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am grieving.
Hey, everybody. 773-763-9278, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Before I go to you, Laura Bell, I know you are cycling in and out. Reverend Jeanette Wilson, I'm sorry we were not able to get you earlier today, but your comment very quickly, please.
Good morning. I think free speech, people don't understand. Freedom of speech is not a difference of opinion. Freedom of speech says that depending on the time, the place, and the manner in which you give the speech and the purpose for which you are giving the speech, so long as it does not result in obscenities, defamation of character, so long as it is not designed to incite a violent response from people, the speech is okay. So it becomes then a difference of opinion, and you need to hear other opinions as you seek to make a decision as to what you should do about a particular candidate, a particular bit of information that you receive. Freedom of speech allows us as Americans to express our thoughts, to hear a diverse opinion without limiting us based on what the government would like for us to hear or our companies would like for us to ingest. So freedom of speech is a unique freedom that many people in many countries do not have.
And we're losing it here. I mean, the studies are showing that. Reporters Without Borders are showing that America is slipping. And see, and this is why we have to talk with each other. Larnell said, it's not surprising that I used to work for Fox News. Yeah, and Democrats blocked me from working for MSNBC. Did you know that? No, you didn't, because you haven't asked me. And you also supported Willie Wilson. No, I actually supported Lori Lightfoot. You're misinforming. So it's like, what are you talking about? You know, if you're going to come to me, and yes, and hold on, Jeanette, when you come to me, come at me with not your opinion. You can come with your opinion, but if they're not factual, I have to correct it. And some of us do this for a living. This is what we do. You do the research all night long. So it's not that I'm sitting on top looking down saying I know more than you. Oh, no. I'm just saying I looked for this information and I'm trying to bring it to you. That is all. Very quickly, Jeanette, because I got to bring Laura Bell up, who's been holding. She wants to talk.
I think that it's interesting that people will block progressive radio stations and want to boycott them, but they don't boycott other radio and television programs that push a particular line of thought and particular style of opinion. I think that what makes America a unique country is we're allowed to have our opinions, our views expressed in multiple platforms, not to be controlled by government action or people. If you don't want to hear the views expressed on this station, then you can go to another one, but then that limits your understanding of what is happening in the world, and you limit yourself to a very narrow view of a narrow line of information, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and my point is we're not as free as we think, because you're not allowed to say certain things. Yeah, I worked for Fox News, and I had more space at Fox than I had on Democratic platforms. Okay? And I went to Fox because they asked me, one moment, Jeanette. They asked me to come. Okay? So I did, and they said I did not have to change I didn't have to change my politics, and I did not. Jeanette, hold on, because I gotta bring some of these people in, because I gotta free up some lines. Because people. Okay, Laura, what's on your mind, sweetie?
Hey there.
Hey, hon, what's on your mind? I'm so glad that you called in.
You know, I called to compliment you on your show because, I love your show, and I haven't heard from you in,
Okay, wait a minute. Now, Laura, you're sounding a little muffled. I want to make sure we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it sounds a little muffled. It sounds a little muffled.
Okay, hold on for a second.
Okay, you might need to take your earpiece out. I can hear you, but it's sounding a little muffled. Just take your earpiece out. Try that.
Okay, ma'am.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just don't want it to be muffled. Okay, Laura, what's on your mind, honey?
Okay. You know, I haven't called you in about.
Do you have a caller?
Since the first time we spoke during COVID. I wanted to tell you that you have an excellent show. And I don't care what people say about your show, because to me, if you voice your opinion about certain things, I mean, yes, you can agree to disagree, but to me, you're very truthful in your shows as others have been on their own platforms. But I love your shows the best, and I'm celebrating 61 years of my life of listening to the best shows today. This is my birthday.
Happy birthday, girl. Welcome to the 60s, my sister. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just, like I said, I just want to comment or compliment your excellent shows as always. Me and Jewel listen to your shows all the time, and we go back and forth saying about how good your shows really are.
Oh, I'm glad you.
So I just want to tell you that.
No, I appreciate that more. Are you up in New York?
No, but I'm going to move up there next year. I'm here in Atlanta.
Okay. You leaving Atlanta to go to New York? What, girl? Okay. I'm mad at you.
I got family up in New York City.
Then that's what you need to do. Go be with them. But but thank you for that.
Yeah.
But that having been said, I just want to give people. I want to give you information so that you can make up your own mind. That's all. That's all I want you to do. Make up your own mind.
That's okay. That's okay, because most of the narratives out there, like everybody's been saying, are very false, and it doesn't depict the truth about what this country was basically about. So when I listen to your shows, when I listen to Roland Martin, and when I listen to a lot of other Black show networks and stuff, I get more of the real information about what the show's what this country is really about and what we're in for with politics and whatnot. So, like I said, I just want to commend you on an excellent show and great work.
Thank you, Laura. I'm sending you so much love today. I appreciate that encouragement. But I'm encouraged by my critics too, because you keep me working real hard. And I want you to know I love all of you. I love Laura. I love you, Daryl. I love everyone, whether you listen or not, but you're showing up on the chat line. I'm glad about that. Let me, before I go to you, Reverend Yuri, let me go to you before I go to Chapearl. I know Chapearl's guy, she just called in, bless her heart. I knew she was going to find her way in. Reverend Dr. Yuri.
Good morning, Santita, and to your guests and to your callers first. I'm in Atlanta, about to walk into a federal courthouse, and I frame it that way because we talk about being progressive. Progressivism is not an ideology that operates in isolation. It is about expanding the conversation, because for far too long, the conversations about access, distribution of resources, values of persons has taken on a very narrow frame. And so if in this commitment to being progressive, we're not open to dissenting views, being challenged on why we have the stand that we stand on and why we take the position that we take, then we're not as progressive as we claim to be. This is not about trying to persuade anybody. It is really to kind of expand the tent, to produce more room for folks to come into a dialogue that has been far too exclusive for far too long. The other part is that this is a conversation about methods, not motives. When we get personal about why we invite certain perspectives, it means then that we've lost sight about the richness of the dialogue. We've just become a different version of the very narrow stuff that we like to talk about on the other side. And so this is really a conversation about the what. This is not an extension of a political campaign or a political platform. It is a platform of ideas. What comes before who? In the dictionary and in politics. And so if we can't have a credible what conversation, we're going to always come up short on the who reality that impacts all of us. And so continue to have these conversations. The truth of the matter is, when I stand up on Sunday morning, you never challenge when you're not doing anything. When you're doing something that invites folks who are typically excluded, you take a whole lot of heat. And so just use it as your North Star, continue to be the convener of a variety of ideas from a lot of different perspectives, and then allow folks the benefit and really the respect to be able to make their own informed decisions, as opposed to feeling like somehow or other you have to be the usher to a particular pew in a particular ideology or a particular ideological sanctuary that is only meant for some and not for all. So keep up the good fight. We just got to keep doing this, because at the end of the day, progress is about moving forward and not moving forward alone.
Go on and get into that courthouse and win that case. He flew in.
I'm going to work.
He flew in. He said, "I'll catch you when I get off the plane." So I'm glad you got us in your ride share. Thank you so much. Chaparral. Oh boy. What's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita. And let me tell you, I've been watching this chat for several days on Facebook. And what I'm seeing is that everybody is upset that we are asking the president to do his job. He was elected by the majority of the Black people because he made promises to protect civil rights and to do justice and policing. Two things that he has outright refused to do. Now, we know that it was going to be difficult to get it passed through the House and the Senate, but he has the power. We're asking him. We have been asking him for almost 4 years to sign the executive order. You know why? Because this is going to help him. And so he's telling us right now, I don't give a damn about what y'all want. I'm not going to sign it. I'm not going to sign the executive order that's going to help keep the Democrats in office. Because if he protects the Civil Rights Act as well as also justice and policing, more Black people will come out and vote for him and vote for the Democratic team down ballot. And so when you are sitting up here putting your finger in my face and telling me I'm not going to support you and I still need your vote, no, you can go to hell. I'm not giving it to you. And so what I'm hearing and seeing on the chat is that, we got to protect democracy. He ain't even protecting democracy. He's not protecting democracy. He knows what's going to happen if they keep on suppressing the vote. He knows exactly what's going on. And he knows the Republican game plan, and he's not doing anything to protect his right to vote. And so you telling me that I want to continue to support the Democratic Party, and they're not doing anything to protect us. Our rights are being eroded every day. Our First Amendment rights, our voting rights, we're still getting slaughtered in the streets by police. And you're telling me that you want me to continue to be monolithic and vote blue no matter who? Hell no. Y'all can do it. I'm not going to do it. You can do it. And I have the right to dissent, and I will. Because the right is mine, and I'm going to do it. That doesn't mean that I'm a Trump supporter. That means that I am voting my interest. And every American should vote their interest. Period.
Well, let me ask you this. You need to put me on mute. Do you want to hear, okay, put us on mute, Chaparral. Do you want to hear from more candidates? Do you want to hear from fewer candidates? Do you want to even hear from Biden surrogates? Because, Robert Patillo makes the point. It can be very, very difficult, you all, to get them to come on the show. I mean, really, you got to jump through all these hoops, y'all. Chaparral, do you want to hear more or fewer?
I want to hear everybody's point of view. I think it's a disservice to Biden to not have him debate his own political parties at this time. Because when he gets on the Republican stage with Trump, he's going to look weak and sound weak because he's not prepared and he's not practicing. So if he wants to actually show strength. That's to debate these other candidates. And if he's so secure in his position and his platform, he should be able to win and debate them. He should be able to strongly debate his positions and not fear that they will overtake him. But that is what he's showing. He's showing more weakness than strength, in my opinion.
Well, Dwight, why don't you respond to Chaparral? I think this stay Chaparral. Shar, are you still there? Is Shar still there?
I am still here.
Shar,
I'm still here.
As I go to the rest of the panel, do you want to hear from more candidates or fewer? I mean, are you open to hearing from Biden surrogates or President Biden himself, Vice President Harris? Do you want to hear more from more people?
Okay, I'll say this. Santita, I already listened to everyone.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate that a lot of times we don't take the time to do our own research. And so I pretty much know the narrative. The problem that I have with the Democratic Party right now is they have a narrative that they follow and nothing more than that narrative. And they gaslight the African-American community particularly. And I want to commend the sister that just spoke because everything she said was true. The other young lady that spoke right after me, I believe her name was Pam, she made an awesome point when she talked about that crime bill. I don't think that we understand how that crime bill desecrated our community. And all up until the last 2 weeks before he got into office, what did he say? Then he finally apologized after they had been begging for an apology. One more point I want to make real quick, Santita. Mm-hmm. When Biden had the opportunity to sit amongst African American leadership, and they were asking him, okay, before we go to Georgia, Biden, let's put down on the table an agenda or a plan for the African American community. Do you know he talked to them like children? See,
I saw that.
I listened to that, and
they got spanked. That was
what
ugly.
Did Maya Angelou tell? That was ugly. He talked to them like they were children, and he talked to them like they were not intelligent, like these were not quote unquote leaders of our communities. But see, I have that I told you so because every time he's been asked or given a position to do anything for our community, Santita, he has not. Let me tell you something about these people, particularly Biden. Biden is consistent. He is consistent. And what they're doing right now is brilliant. Talk about Trump. Trump's not in office. Trump is not running for office. But that is a form of, this is what narcissists do. When they want you to deflect, they talk, oh, look at that person. Oh, look at that thing over there. This is a deflection tactic. They want you talking about Trump and all of his crimes, but they're not talking about the crimes against humanity that are going on right at this moment. You can say a lot about Trump, but he didn't have us. We weren't at war. We were not at war. And we have to look at what's actually happening. We need to look what is happening currently and stop allowing them to tell us the narrative. Let me get back on your point about this free speech, but direct our narrative in terms of what we think about other people, particularly Kennedy.
Well, I just, because you're clearly a Kennedy supporter, and that is cool with me. No, it's all good because I think you need to be heard. Attorney Mark Fancher, your thoughts? You're a civil libertarian, and I can look at the traffic today, and I can hear from listening to the audience. It seems like they are bursting at the seams to be heard.
They are, and they should be. And I agree with your point. I think that the First Amendment in the U.S. is a myth. I don't think it exists. I think that anytime that a person begins to speak truth that in any way threatens the capitalist order, that threatens corporations, that threatens the powerful, then they are shut down, if not by official forces, then by unofficial forces, in much the same way when you and your show are beginning to speak truth and to provide opportunities for people to come on and provide a narrative that is contrary to what the powers that be want to hear, then the forces of resistance come out. So it's not as though you can just say anything. You can say it, but there are going to be consequences for it. But that's true of any country where there's any regime. If you speak a truth that is inconsistent with what those in power want to be told or to be said, then they're shut down. And that's the truth. So given that, I really think that it's misdirected energy to try and to, if you're a fierce opponent of Trump, you're misusing and misdirecting your energy to try and shut down people who are saying things that are inconsistent with what you want to hear. Your energy is better spent on trying to bring into focus those truths which will help to defeat Trump. And I wrote a piece not too long ago that basically said that America deserves Trump. And they deserve Trump, number one, because he reflects, in terms of his values and his thoughts, what the history of this country is all about. Division and hatred, and we're built on slavery and genocide and all of those things. And he's a good icon for that. But also, even for progressive forces, particularly progressive white forces in this country, they have fallen down in their responsibility to try and stop everything that he represents. Because for decades now, progressive revolutionary Black forces have tried to encourage the progressive and revolutionary white left to try and to politically educate white workers. And they've never been willing to do that. The most that they've ever been willing to do is to point fingers at them and to say that they're a cult, to say that they're irredeemable and that they're ignorant and that they're stupid and all of those kinds of things. And they never do anything to try and educate them. And it leaves the way clear for right-wing and reactionary forces to go and to bring them into their fold. To help them to internalize backwards and negative messages that cause them to swear allegiance to a Donald Trump. So don't attack Santita Jackson because she's trying to present voices that may help to get us out of this mess. Let her present them so that we can probably get some new ideas, some new inspiration, a new way of going forward, and that we can all use. And that if we're smart, that we'll take to the people who are currently supporting Trump and try and bring them on board with that progressive idea. But just to attack the messenger, to attack somebody who's trying to bring new information and new analysis to the people is backwards. It's a misuse of energy, and it's stupid.
It's not helping us, everybody. We've got to begin to talk with each other. That's why, many of you, Tracy, I've invited you to call. Karen, I've invited you to call. You all still want to talk on the chat, and that's cool. But I think it would be a good thing for you to call in. Conversation. Talk with people. Speak with people. Not just at people. I wish I would get a marriage proposal by text. How am I supposed to handle that? That's not how we relate to each other best. We got to talk with one another. And then, you dig down. And Karen, I'm not saying that you don't have the information, but you might not have the information. Somebody else might have a little bit something else. The old song was Stop by the Church sometime. Somebody might have something that, Dwight, that might help you on your way. Stop by the church sometime. And also talk to people. The reason I don't just bring people have their biases, but I bring people in here who have their opinions because of their research. They're not biased. Their research has led them in a particular direction, like your research or your reading has too. It's just these people do this for a living. So I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I hope that you will listen. I hope that you will participate. I hope that you will call in. Dwight McKay, I got 30 seconds for you. What you want to say?
I think it's pretty much been said. I think that in a democracy, the more opinions you have, the more information you have, the more facts you have, the better decisions you can make. And I think that anybody with an open mind and open spirit should welcome that. I don't begrudge those who don't. Being myopic is an option too in a democracy. And so those who want to be blind also have that right. Those who want to see also have that right. And so God bless America,
God bless you. Everybody have a couple minutes here because I've got to catch a flight today. Thank you so much, Alex, for a great show. But everybody, I want to get some closing thoughts to you. Mark Fancher, your closing thoughts.
Well, I think that what we have to do is to, as I said earlier, remain true to principle. This is not and should not be about electoral politics.
Mm-hmm.
It should be about saving the people by any means necessary. And in the course of using electoral politics as a vehicle, as a method of trying to bring about liberation of the human family, then we have to keep our eye on the prize and understand what we're really trying to accomplish. It's not just winning an election. That's meaningless if winning the election is not going to move the people forward, if it's not going to help bring us closer to liberation. And so staying true to principle and taking the consequences for staying true to principle is what our program should be.
Hey, and we're gonna keep on keeping on. Who else do I still have? Dwight, I still have you. I know Reverend Dr. Yuri left. Shar, you're still there?
I am.
Okay,
I am.
Shar, literally, I have a minute, girl. I got a flight to catch. So
I know. So let me just give you say closing thoughts. And I just
it's
want
more
to say
like
this.
a closing. It's more like a closing thought, my beloved sister, because I got to get out of here. My car is downstairs.
Okay, I got you. Real quick, I just wanted to thank you. And I want to ask that our community, that we open our ears and our minds, and that we're active listeners, and that we're not so polarized in our views. And because some things some people say are right, some things that they say are wrong. You know, be willing to listen and hear. And thank you, Santita, very much. You have a safe flight.
Girl, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dwight McKee, your thoughts? I mean, is Chappelle still there? I think not. Okay, Dwight.
I think it's all been said. I'm good with, the callers today I thought were exceptional. And I think that as long as we have that kind of audience with that kind of open mind, we'll be able to make a contribution to the planet, which is our goal, is just to make a contribution to the planet.
Well, because I have to tell you, I am so moved that you all really participated today. And whether you agree or disagree, I'm glad that you're kind of hanging there with me. I really appreciate that. I'm not always going to get it right, but I hope you will not question my motives, because I really do want to serve you. I think that's what I'm here for. I work for Fox News. Absolutely. And you'd be surprised at the Democrats who actually blocked me from working for MSNBC. But working at Fox News was a gift, because I got a chance to sharpen my talons, as Roger Ailes told me I would do. He said, if you can present your politics to this audience who are disinclined to listen to you, you'll be a winner. And I think you can be big in this industry. He was also the mentor of Rachel Maddow, just so that you know. In this industry, everybody relates to everybody. If you have a basic like for someone, that nobody does that. I'm trying to tell y'all how power works. Power has no party. It is odorless. It is colorless. People just respond to it. Be clear on that. What I appreciated about Fox and what I appreciated about them today is that they did not ask me to change my politics. I had the space. Was I outnumbered? Sure. That was cool. That was fine. But you don't have any friends in the industry. You don't. So stop acting like these people you're watching on TV are your friends and they're fighting for you. That is not what they are paid to do. They are not paid to fight for you. That's why you need to get involved in organizations, Mark. You need to read when Mark Fancher, Fancher, when he writes something. He's fighting for you. That's what he does as a lawyer for a living. Dwight's fighting for you. These pundits, they get it wrong all the time. They're not fighting for you. They're not even giving your opinion. They're trying to shape your narrative. Operation Paperclip, Operation Mockingbird, all these people have been taken over by powers bigger than us or more organized than we. So you need to understand that. We're all being shaped and propagandized every single day. So blue no matter who, I don't do that. I want to know who you are. and what your agenda is. And you need to ask that question too. Who are you? What do you want? First of all, how can you help me? That's it. All communities who are forward thinking and forward moving and upward thinking and upward moving, they want to know, what is your plan to help me? And they hold you to it. We start saying, well, no. What we want to do is protect them. Oh, no. That's not how politics works. You must fight for yourself until the very end. And you must first be respected, not liked and loved and rubbed upon. You are not on a corner for sale. You're a grown person. Hello. Yeah, I said it. And even the people on the corner who are for sale, they're doing it because that's what they have to do. You don't have to do that. People bled and died for you to have the right to vote. And you need to stand up for the ancestors and stand up for them and stand up for yourself and make these publicly elected officials work for you and do things that end poverty, that check this military industrial complex. You give the people of Lahaina $700 per family, and you want to give $100 billion, not to Ukraine, but to the military industrial complex so they can get richer. You ought to be sick of that. What about the people of East Palestine? What about the people who've got lead in Chicago, lead in Flint, and all over the country? We have a 100-year-old infrastructure that is killing people, making people sick. No. Let's wake up, everybody. Wake up. And I'm going to continue to bring people who will challenge you and challenge your thinking. I'm going to do that because I respect you, because I know you're grown enough to take it. You can do it. You can take it. And some of these folks are trolls. I'm clear on that. Trust and believe. I get it. Because y'all got a whole lot of time. Oh, I'm at work. Really? You're at work and you're typing for 2 hours? Really? Okay, I'm not mad at you. But don't try and throw off the morning stars here and everybody else. Y'all playing games while people are starving. There is a hunger problem in America. Hunger increased last year. You're not talking about that. You want to get mad with me about Biden? Ask him why the hell hunger is increasing in America. Why is poverty increasing in America? Ask that question and ask it of Republicans and Democrats and make them do something about it. Just because you're not starving today doesn't mean you couldn't be starving tomorrow. My pastor's wife, Reverend Clay Evans' wife, Mrs. Luther May Evans Dwight McKee, who was your godmother, said, you know where you've been. You don't know where you're going. You might have a full belly today. Your circumstance could change this afternoon. That part. Blue no matter who, red no matter what, that's sheep being led to the slaughter. You better start asking some questions. You better start demanding people respect you. The easy girl loses in the courtship game. You better have some demands. Do not lie down, ladies, with a man who ain't got no plan for you that benefits you. Yeah, I'm putting it that way. That's how my father talked to me. No, don't play that game. Stop playing these games with yourself. Stop it. So let's get up, everybody. Get up. And make people treat you right. Make them respect you. Yes, Dwight?
I heard a sister say the other day, I thought it was profound. She said Biden is working real hard to keep his son out of jail, but he was perfectly willing to put our children in jail.
So how about that
I thought that was so profound.
How about that part? Well, you know, the Lord will work it out, because Trump was saying, what? Lock her up, and now that's all he's fighting. Watch yourself, everybody. Watch yourself. And try to put some good energy, godly energy out there with people. Huh? I don't have time to hate anybody. I don't have time to disparage anybody. That's why I told the manager of the station, I said, no. I'm not going to disparage anyone. I'm not going to disparage Trump. I ain't got time for that. I'm too close to heaven. I'm trying to see Jesus, honey. God's got a plan for Trump, like God's got a plan for me. That's God's child too. I'm not going to do that. I have some policy differences with him and with Biden and with everybody. And then there's some other people who are coming into the conversation who are offering some ideas that can help me and our people. And I don't mean just Black people. I mean all people who are living on the downside of advantage. And that's everybody. So you wake up and don't let these people take advantage of you. Don't let these people pimp you out and treat you like you are refuse to be tossed away. Make them respect you. Stop being needy for folks to like you. Need and require that people respect you. And I promise you, your world is going to change. I love you, everybody. Dwight, you want to say anything else? Mark?
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Have a good day.
Mark Fancher? I love y'all. Shar, it has been great. Girl, you got to call back in. I love you all. I got to get out of here, but boy, oh boy, you all have been engaged today, and I love it, love it, love it. I love all of you, and I love, I think all of you are supporters, whether you're critics or not. I am good because the critics, steel sharpens steel. You make me better. So I want to thank you for all of that. Takesha, D-Ray, Daryl, all of you. Daryl said he had to calm down before he came back. I hear you. But I got you. I got you. So everybody, I'm going to go catch this flight. I love you. I got to bounce. Okay, so I got to get through security and all of that. I love you, and God bless you. See you tomorrow.